Hi and welcome. This is Keith Schneider. I'm going to give you a virtual tour of the citrus packing line that is located in Lake Alfred, Florida, in our packing plant. What we hope to do in this video is to give you a guided tour of some of the surfaces that you may encounter and what they look like magnified. The goal is to kind of show you some of the difficulty you might encounter when trying to sanitize surfaces and how these surfaces degrade over time. So this is where we first dump. They go up a small little conveyor and then they'll go into the first wash station. And as we go around, we'll take some time to look at some of the different areas under high magnification with my awesome little digital microscope. But first we'll do a tour around. So again, we'll go up the initial brush rollers. We'll come out of the brush washer actually, and we'll go up to a second conveyor belt. We'll do a 90-degree turn, and then we'll start heading off to our optical sorter. You can see that little pool noodle. That little blue thing there. We'll revisit that as we do our close-up. But we were coming out of, or actually getting ready to go into our optical sorter. And again, this is a small 2-line packing house. These are the sorting cups that, after it's read through the optical sorter, that would then parse them out into individual bins. From here we'd move across. Normally this would be in a continuous line, but in this packing line we bring those sorted fruit over to the waxing line, and then we move them off into the dryer to again dry them off and get them ready for pack out. And this then has 2 additional 90-degree turns. And obviously this is a small pilot scale plant. But the equipment itself, the age and condition is about typical for what we see. Obviously there are newer plants out there, but again, this is not uncommon to see this type of equipment. So first up we see a little wood panel divider. We try not to have wood in packing plants, but we do run into it. And here's a close-up of that painted surface at around 10x. And you can see that even painted with a high gloss kind of an animal paint, it is still pitted, and there's still plenty of places for microbes to hide out on this type of a surface. So this is the dump bin where we have some metal rods, painted steel, and you can see where some of that paint is flaked off at, we're at 50x. You can see a little mold build up and other little pits where, again, we're starting to develop persistent filth and dirt. Same thing with the PVC rollers. Again, while we may not have active micro here, we're getting dirt that is no longer able to be cleaned very easily. So those are 2 very smooth surfaces by comparison, and you can see that rubber mat in the upper right hand corner. And we'll zoom in on that, and that's a fibrous mat, and the surface area here is just insane. We're getting literally hundreds of times the surface area, which again means that much more microbes are able to grow. It makes it much more problematic. Our smooth rubber flaps, obviously not smooth. We can see that there are plenty of holes and pits, which again can harbor microbes and become incredibly hard to clean. Moving into the brush rollers, you can see some newer rolls here on to the left, and then we get to older ones that are fairly dirty. Again, the clean brushes, and even these are starting to shred a little bit. Still a fairly cleanable, but again, the surface area here is very, very high. As these brushes begin to age, we start to get this persistent soil, which again becomes excellent harborage spots for potential microbe contamination. This is just another style of brush, different type of nylon, where the other one was almost tri-shaped as a quad fiber. And again, the more surface area, the harder it is going to be able to clean these types of surfaces. Rubber rollers, again, they appear smooth from far out, but when you get up close, as this rubber begins to age, again, you start to get cracks and pits, and again, every one of these is a large surface area where microbes can again persist and possibly form biofilm. So look at the metal transfer plate, and then this, we can hit it with a little bit harsher chemicals. But again, it's becoming pitted with age. So with any old equipment, it just becomes harder and harder to clean over time. Here's the metal transfer plate, and again, this, you can actually see some of the paint that has flaked off and it has become embedded in this metal plate. And if you look off to the right there, you can see the seam within that vinyl conveyor belt. And the vinyl belt itself is fairly cleanable. Again, as it's been aging, we have persistent dirt, we have little nicks and cuts that again hold soil. But that joiner, that belt joiner, again, is starting to rust. You'll see as we get even closer, some of the metal beginning to flake. And this is incredibly hard to clean. Especially if you're looking at a sanitation situation. This is an area you really want to concentrate on, because again, this is an area where you can get persistent microbial contamination. Okay, so we come out of that first washer. We're going to go up to this conveyor into the sorter now. Same types of materials. So there's that pool noodle. They put it on there for protection. Again, that's more for worker safety, but again, that is a very porous foam, almost impossible to clean. And as you get up on that, you can kind of see that since it is so porous, dirt gets stuck underneath there. And again, it's not the most optimal surface you want to have in a processing environment. Now, this is the newer part of this pilot scale equipment, and you'll notice this is this right here is kind of a vinyl sheeting that's missing a screw. And since it's a vinyl sheeting, it has a kind of a fibrous core. You notice, again, any missing screw heads are potential sources of contamination. And here's another one of those missing screw heads where you can see the fibrous mat underneath it, which gives it this flexibility. But again, without that screw head in there, you have a lot of surface area where bacterial contamination can kind of build up. So this is what I wanted to point out before. This is newer equipment. It's a harder plastic, and again, it hasn't had a chance to pick up all that dirt and residue over the years. You can see it's very cleanable. The hard plastic resists scraping, and again, it's not as old, and therefore we don't have so much dust. Same with the guide brushes. Are still clean. Still, we have a lot of surface area, but they remain cleanable as opposed to some of those earlier brushes that we saw. Here somebody left a coffee cup, which again shouldn't be in a processing environment. We actually staged that one, but yes, we shouldn't have food in the processing environment. These are the brushes coming out of the sorter, and again, cleanable, but if we get up closer, you can still see there's plenty of dirt and residue on these materials once you zoom in there. And while they may not have bacterial contamination, they certainly could. And that's only going to get worse with time. Sorting cups, also new part of the equipment. Again, much harder plastic. It hasn't been abused. And as we go in there, we'll see, as with the earlier newer pieces of equipment, still in pretty good condition. Again, as these things age, they'll become more pitted. You can see even that's what appears to be a smooth surface. There's plenty of hiding places on those surfaces where filth and bacteria can begin to build up over time. Okay, let's moving on to the waxing line. This is more of an older piece of equipment. And we'll see some of this is a transfer plate where some of the paint is starting to flake off, and again, we have persistent filth and dirt in these areas. These brushes have a mixed fiber, 2 different types of nylon fibers in them, and again, on that waxy material, it's very, very hard to clean. Just remember that not all plants have this old equipment, but again, this type of equipment still exists. And as these things get older, again, certain screws will start to fall out or not be replaced. And anytime we have those missing screws, we do have a high potential for areas that are difficult to clean, and again can retain biological contamination. Metal rollers, while they look awful, again, we can hit these with much harsher sanitizing agents and cleaning agents. The ones on the right there seem to be coated with a shellac, which obviously isn't very good. But again, we can hit these with harsh chemicals, and the metal is able to handle a lot of that, but it becomes incredibly hard to clean. Here's that shellac we talked about. This is coming off the fruit coming out of the waxer and dryer. It builds up over time and may cause these PVC rollers to be replaced after a couple of years. But the dirtier things get, the harder they are to clean. All right, that's the end of the tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, my name is Keith Schneider. I'm a professor at the University of Florida in Gainesville. I want to thank Dr. Renee Schneider and Michelle Daniluk for helping out taking this video.